Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're doing a total deep dive into the absolutely wild plot twists unfolding at the Weightman House. I mean, grab your mental notepads because we are laying out a mystery that is as complex as it is terrifying. We're talking cursed artifacts, sudden deaths in the middle of the night, and magical sabotage from literally the last people you would ever expect. We're going to map out exactly what happened, step by step, so you can see the full picture. Picture this. You've just survived a terrifying séance. You're sitting at the breakfast table, pouring your morning coffee, thinking the worst is finally over. Then, a tearful Lana Zinovich walks into the dining room, stops dead in her tracks, and delivers this absolute gut punch to the silent room. My grandmother went to the angels overnight. She is dead. My sister Uti is with her. Just like that, Madame Tatianna Lupenski, the 95-year-old medium who bravely led them to victory last night, is gone. And honestly, the shock doesn't just stop at natural causes. Right out in the open, sitting smack in the middle of the dining room table, is the cursed McConnell's Odd Science Curiosities book. Larry urgently tells the host, Janet Weightman, that she needs to check it. So Janet opens the book, and tucked inside is this faded yellow note. She unfolds it and reads a single name out loud to the stunned group, Tatianna Lupenski. Yeah, the exact same woman whose body is rusting upstairs. Okay, let's dive right into this. Part 1, the morning after. We need to look at exactly how the group handles the immediate fallout of losing their leader.
You know, even with all this supernatural chaos swirling around, the real world still forces its way in. Procedural stuff has to happen. Madame Lupenski passed away peacefully in her sleep sometime after 3 a.m. We actually know the timeline here because her granddaughter, Uti, saw her up and using the restroom right around then. Now, legally, this is considered an unattended death, so the local authorities are brought in. County Coroner Mal Fredericks shows up with a stretcher to take the body to Port Williams, and he's escorted by Deputy Doug Howerton, who, small world, is actually an old buddy of Larry's. So while you've got this grim, clinical reality of stretchers and body bags moving through the house, Janet Weightman really steps up. She formally offers sanctuary to the grieving granddaughters, Lana and Uti, giving them a safe place to stay at the mansion while they figure out what comes next.
But while the cops are dealing with the physical body, we have to ask, what about her soul? That brings us to part 2, Rules of the Cursed Books. You absolutely need to grasp this central lore to understand the supernatural mechanics at play here. Look at this, because it perfectly illustrates the terrifying, totally unintended consequences of that first séance. On one hand, the book, Earth, Land, and Sea, is now completely empty. The dangerous spirit of Alistair Finch is gone for good, which is a massive win. But here's the absolute tragedy of the situation. McConnell's Odd Science Curiosities is the new prison. By freeing the spirit of Mary Richards the night before, they accidentally left the supernatural void inside this book wide open. And now, it is trapping the soul of Madame Lupenski.
So how does this even happen without some sort of dark, intentional ritual being performed? Well, it all boils down to this one terrifying rule: occult transference. Think of it like a supernatural vacuum. It's the absorption of a person's spirit into a specific cursed artifact at the exact moment of their death. Because Madame Lupenski was so heavily involved in the séance, and because she passed away naturally right after they emptied the McConnell's book, that mystical void just sucked her right in. It didn't care that she was a good person. The second her physical heart stopped, the mechanics of the book went to work.
Meanwhile, away from the grieving family and the police protocols, there's a whole secret subplot brewing. Let's get into part 3, Betrayal from Within. In the empty dining room, Gideon Jarboe pulls Larry aside to drop an absolute bombshell about what was really happening in the shadows of the estate. To really wrap our heads around the chaos of this estate, we've got to look at this hidden overnight timeline. Check this out. At exactly midnight, right after the séance wraps up, a saboteur is confronted and instantly fired by security, okay? Fast forward a few hours to 3 a.m., Madame Lupenski is seen alive, but by morning, she's found dead and her soul is trapped. The dramatic irony here is just staggering. Most of the guests were sound asleep in their beds thinking they had totally won the battle, right? But an invisible war was literally being waged right out in the hallways. They thought the threat was just inside the books, but it was walking right past their doors. And the wildest part of this whole revelation? The identity of the saboteur. It wasn't some outside force. It was Michael Edgington, Janet Weightman's own trusted librarian and computer tech. He was secretly operating out of his employee apartment, room 17, using a black candle and a crystal ball to actively mess with the evening's séance. Get this, he was actually the one controlling the spirit of Alistair Finch. He was forcing it to terrorize poor Avery Jacobs. Luckily, Charles Smith caught him red-handed, completely lost it and smashed the crystal ball, and had Edgington banished from the estate in 30 minutes flat. But the terrifying takeaway here, the group was being actively attacked from the inside by someone they totally trusted. As Gideon warns Larry, knowing that makes things incredibly dangerous going forward. All of this really makes you wonder, right? Which brings us to an important pause in our explainer. While all this supernatural stuff is brewing, what happens to the living? How do these normal people cope during the daylight hours when they aren't fighting off demonic books or banishing corrupt librarians? It's so vital to see how their real-world lives are shifting underneath all this. We actually get to see those real-world stakes take center stage, especially for Carla. Janet Weightman invites Carla all the way up to her sprawling fourth-floor quarters. Now, this is a space almost nobody gets to see, full of frosted green carpets and these amazing Victorian antiques. Up there, Janet, who acknowledges she's nearly 85 years old, formally offers Carla a live-in medical care advisor position. Fun fact, this recommendation actually came from Carla's uncle Lester. It's a crazy lucrative offer, but incredibly demanding. Carla agrees to seriously consider it. She knows it would completely change her financial future, but it would also tie her permanently to this massive, isolated, privileged world of Janet Weightman. It's a huge crossroads for her character. After that super heavy meeting, Larry and Carla decide they just need a mental break. They take a long afternoon walk, exploring the estate wetlands down to the south. They wander past the ornate Posidia fish pond, walk through this thick forest of Douglas firs where the temperature just noticeably drops, and eventually step out onto an old metal bridge over a slow-moving creek with wild ducks swimming around. It's such a peaceful, beautiful moment. It really reminds us of the stunning, natural Pacific Northwest beauty that surrounds this creepy mansion. But let's be real. In the structure of our story, we all know this is strictly the calm before the storm. Because the sun is going down, and the surviving guests are gathering in the dining room to make a bold, terrifying choice. Let's ramp things up for part 4, the second séance. Because despite the deep trauma, the physical exhaustion, and that inside betrayal they just uncovered, this group is diving right back into the supernatural fire. Unbelievably, there is a unanimous agreement from all 12 remaining attendees. Even the folks who were absolutely terrified last night are stepping up. They want to honor Madame Lupenski's spirit, and their ultimate goal is singular and clear: free her trapped soul from the McConnell's book. To pull this off, Janet and Charles have summoned a brand new medium, Adrienne Russell, who is flying in straight from Seattle. The whole event is scheduled to kick off tonight at exactly 9 p.m., and they're doing it right back upstairs in the Vista Parlor, the exact same room where last night's terror went down. They are marching straight back into the unknown, folks. They've got the team, they've got the room, and they certainly have the motivation. But as we've learned the hard way, these cursed books make their own rules. Which leaves us with this final, burning question. Will this second séance actually free Madame Lupenski, or is it just going to claim another victim? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, everybody. I hope this breakdown really helped you wrap your head around the dark mechanics of the Weightman house. Until next time, keep your curiosity sharp.